Every era of weed has its superstars. Right now, it's the dessert strains, gelato, Runtz, wedding cake, the sweet exotic stuff running every top shelf in America. But cherry pie is the strain hiding in their DNA, the quiet ancestor behind it all. Now we all know superstars have parents, and parents have parents. And if you climb far enough down that family tree, the branches keep leading back to the same quiet spot. A little house in San Francisco in the mid-2000s, where somebody grew a sweet purple cross that most of its own grandkids' fans have never even smoked. This is the story of cherry pie. Now, cherry pie is a cross between two parents from opposite sides of the earth. So let's meet them, because they explain everything you need to know about this strain. The mother side is Granddaddy Purple, and if you know Bay Area weed, you know GDP. That strain came from a grower named Ken Estes, who found medical cannabis after a motorcycle accident put him in a wheelchair, and around 2003, he introduced the plant that would make him famous. The recipe is usually given as Purple Urkle crossed with Big Bud, two foundational California strains in their own right, though Ken himself has told a few different versions of that story over the years. It still doesn't change the fact that it became a legend. And a legend it became because Granddaddy Purple became the king of purple weed. I mean, we are talking about deep violet beautiful buds, a grape and berry sweetness, and on top of all of that, a warm, heavy body melt. It wasn't just hype either, because more than a decade later, it was still winning hardware, taking Best US Indica at the High Times Cannabis Cup in 2015. Now the father side comes from about 10,000 miles away, because it's Durban Poison, a pure African landrace sativa from the hills outside the port city of Durban, South Africa. If you caught our Skunk #1 video, you'll recognize part of this journey, because Durban Poison was carried west in the 1970s by the famous cannabis writer Ed Rosenthal, and was later passed through the hands of legends like Sam the Skunkman, who helped stabilize it for the world. Durban is everything Granddaddy Purple isn't: fast, electric, and clear-headed, with a sweet licorice snap and an energetic, creative high. And it's even rich in a rare cannabinoid called THCV, sometimes called diet weed, or the sports car of cannabinoids, because it delivers a sharp, clean energy without the heavy body effect you get from THC. So, picture the blend: a heavy purple couch warmer from California, crossed with a racing African landrace sativa, and you understand why cherry pie came out so perfectly balanced, sweet and relaxing without ever knocking you out. So who actually put those two together? The breeder is a Bay Area grower named Kenny Dumetz, better known as Piggy, the co-founder of a genetics crew called Powered Up, which he started with his partner Jason Mejia, and cherry pie is considered one of his earliest and most foundational creations. Years later, that same Powers Up crew would join the Cookies family and help create modern stars like Gary Payton and Cereal Milk. But it all traces back to this pie. And the moment Pie Guy made it, the cut went straight into the hands of the man who would make it famous, Jigga, real name Jai Chang, the genetics genius of the Cookie fam, who we covered in our Girl Scout Cookies video, growing out of a house on Noriega Street in San Francisco's Sunset District. Now the dates here are honestly a little loose. Jigga's own timeline puts cherry pie around 2003 or 2004, while other accounts say a few years later. So the safe answer is the mid-2000s. But here's the detail that gives this story its heart. Because Jigga has said cherry pie was one of the strains he grew for terminally ill patients, while working with San Francisco's public health system in those early days, operating under California's Prop 215, the Compassionate Use Act that first opened the door to legal medical cannabis in the state. Before it was a flavor trend, before it built an empire, cherry pie was medicine. Remember that, because we'll come back to it at the end. And the strain itself earned every bit of its name. Because if you crack open a jar of cherry pie, you get a whiff of sweet tart cherry and baked goods dough, with a sour, earthy edge underneath. And that profile is driven by a terpene stack dominated by myrcene, caryophyllene, and limonene, which together gives you that fruit and spice combo that made this thing so instantly recognizable. It sits on dense little forest green buds, streaked with GDP purple, and wrapped in bright orange hairs under a coat of frost. It leans indica, but smokes balanced, opening with a happy, creative lift from the Durban side before the GDP settles in and melts your body without shutting your brain off, usually testing somewhere between 16 and 24% THC, though batches swing on both sides of that. It even took home hardware, placing third in its category at the 2014 High Times Cannabis Cup in Denver. And real quick, let's clear up a mess the internet created, because there are 3 different cherry strains people constantly mix up. Cherry pie is GDP crossed with Durban. Cherry Kush is a totally different plant, an OG Kush cross. And Cherry Pie Kush is a third thing entirely. And that one sits at the center of the biggest controversy in this whole story. Which brings us to the secret. Because here's where cherry pie stops being just a tasty strain and becomes the key to the entire modern family tree. The Cookie fam had a secret weapon, a mystery plant they only ever called the F1. And that's just a nickname, not real breeding terminology. Jigga himself told High Times it was their secret sauce and flat out refused to reveal its true name. But the fam crossed that mystery plant with Durban poison to create something they called the F1 Durban. And that F1 Durban became the engine of everything. Cross the F1 Durban with Granddaddy Purple and you get cherry pie. Cross that same F1 Durban with a Florida cut of OG Kush and you get Girl Scout cookies. Read that again. Cherry pie and GSC, the strain that changed weed forever, are half-siblings, brother and sister from the same house, sharing the same secret parent. What makes that even more remarkable from a genetics standpoint is that both strains were preserved as clone-only cuts in those early years, meaning the phenotype you got was the phenotype. No seed variation, no drift, just that exact expression of the F1 Durban's DNA locked in and passed down. Now I've got to be straight with you, because there's a wilder version of this story floating around, and you'll find it all over the internet. One grower posted a tale claiming Girl Scout cookies literally as cherry pie, that a mysterious breeder up north crossed cherry pie with Chemdog to make something called Cherry Pie Kush, and that Burner happened to be eating actual Girl Scout cookies when it arrived, and named it on the spot. It is a great story. It is also a single-source internet rumor that contradicts itself in different retellings, and Jigga has personally dismissed it, joking that stories like that are the ones they put out to stop people from copying their genetics. Even the laboratory data leans against it, since cherry pie and GSC show different dominant terpenes, and no genetic study has ever settled the question. So the honest verdict is this: cherry pie is not GSC's father, it is GSC's sibling. And that means the title of this video is really about bloodline, because whether as a parent or a brother, cherry pie carries the exact secret DNA that built the dynasty. And what a dynasty it is, so let's look at family tree. Cherry pie's own direct documented kids are no joke. There's Forbidden Fruit, made by crossing cherry pie with Tangy from Crockett Family Farms, the same Crockett crew from our strawberry banana video, using cherry pie pollen straight from Jigga. And there's Birthday Cake, which crosses cherry pie with its own sibling GSC. Now here's where I have to fix a mistake half the internet still makes, because for years, databases claimed Wedding Cake, which we covered in its own video, was cherry pie crossed with GSC. It's not. The breeder behind it, JBZ of Seed Junkie, confirmed Wedding Cake is actually a phenotype of triangle mints. And the cherry pie cross people are thinking of is birthday cake. Two dessert names that got hopelessly tangled. Though funny enough, wedding cake still carries Cookie Fam blood anyway through its animal mince side. And from GSC, the sibling branch explodes into everything. GSC created Sunset Sherbet. Sunset Sherbet created Gelato, Leafly's Strain of the Year in 2018, which we covered, and Gelato created Runtz, Strain of the Year in 2020. Line them all up: Sherbet, Gelato, Runtz, birthday cake, forbidden fruit, and the hundreds of crosses hanging off them. And every single one traces back through that one Sunset District house and the secret F1 Durban that lives in cherry pie's veins. That's what the title means. Half the modern menu is this plant's family reunion. And the legacy runs through business as much as genetics, because cherry pie was one of the founding strains of the Cookie Fam run that Berner spun into cookies. The company Forbes valued at $150 million, while Berner insisted it was worth $1 billion, with Wiz Khalifa shouting the family's strains to the world along the way. And through all of that, cherry pie itself never left. 20 years later, it's still a name-requested top-shelf classic, the sweet purple elder statesman sitting quietly on menus next to its own grandchildren, most of which outsell it without their buyers ever knowing the connection. So at the end of the day, cherry pie is the strain hiding in plain sight inside half the weed you love. It's two continents in one plant, a purple California legend crossed with an African landrace, bred by Pie Guy, raised by Jigga, and carrying the same secret sauce that built Girl Scout cookies, sherbet, gelato, and Runtz. And remember where it started. Grown as medicine for dying patients in San Francisco under Prop 215 before it ever fathered an empire. Not bad for a humble slice of pie. So what about you? Have you ever smoked some real cherry pie? And did you have any idea it was sitting in the family tree of your favorites? And what strain from the Cookie Fam family tree should we cover next? Let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this one, do me a favor and hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives like this one, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.